My Lyft driver switched to Spanish with his other passenger, and I understood their plan to rob my house after dropping me off. Luis was describing my home security system in detail to the woman in the front seat, explaining that he'd picked me up from this same address a week ago when I'd left for my Chicago business trip. He'd noticed I lived alone based on the single set of keys, had watched me set the alarm code through his rearview mirror, and had seen expensive electronics visible through the windows when I'd opened the door. The woman, whose name was apparently Claudia, asked how much time they'd have before I got suspicious. Luis said at least an hour after drop-off, maybe 2 if they were fast, because I'd mentioned being exhausted and wanting to sleep immediately when I got home. They were coordinating this robbery in Spanish 3 feet from me, assuming the white woman in the back seat scrolling her phone couldn't understand a word. My mother was from Guadalajara and had refused to speak English at home my entire childhood. I was completely fluent but looked Anglo enough that nobody ever guessed. I kept my expression neutral and my eyes on my phone screen while my heart hammered against my ribs. Claudia asked about valuables, and Luis ticked off a list based on what he'd observed during my airport ride a week ago. Laptop, tablet, expensive camera equipment he'd helped me load into his trunk, a large flat-screen TV visible through the living room window, probably jewelry in the bedroom. He said the house was in a quiet neighborhood with limited street traffic at night, perfect for a quick in-and-out burglary. Claudia asked about neighbors, and Luis said the house on the left had been dark both times he'd driven past, possibly empty or people who slept early. The house on the right had an elderly couple he'd seen through windows, unlikely to notice or intervene. They were planning this with the efficiency of people who'd done it before, casually discussing my home like it was a business opportunity that had fallen into their lap. I wanted to shout at them, to let them know I understood every word, but some instinct told me to stay quiet and gather information. If I revealed I spoke Spanish now, they might panic or change their plan or do something desperate. Luis merged off the highway onto the exit that led to my neighborhood. We were maybe 10 minutes from my house. Claudia was asking logistical questions about entry points, and Luis said the back door had a cheap lock he could probably pick or force without much noise. He'd noticed it during the previous pickup when he'd helped me with my luggage through the side gate to get to my car in the garage. He'd been casing my house for a week, gathering intelligence while playing the friendly, helpful driver. The woman asked about police response time in this area, and Luis said at least 15 minutes based on crime reports he'd checked online. Plenty of time to grab valuables and disappear. They were discussing my home invasion with the detached professionalism of contractors planning a job. My hands were shaking slightly as I typed a text to my neighbor David, trying to look casual while crafting an SOS message that wouldn't alert Luis if he glanced in the rearview mirror. David was retired FBI, paranoid about neighborhood security, the kind of guy who still carried a weapon when he checked his mailbox. I texted David, "Coming home now. If you see anyone at my house in the next 2 hours, call police immediately. We'll explain later." David was the perfect person to contact because he'd been warning the neighborhood about property crime for years, had organized watch groups and security assessments. His response came back within 30 seconds. "Roger that. Everything okay?" I typed back, "We'll explain when I'm safely inside. Just watch my place, please." Luis turned onto my street and I felt my stomach clench. Claudia was reviewing their timeline out loud in Spanish. Luis drops me off, confirms I go inside and lock up. Then he drops Claudia at her apartment complex a few blocks away. They wait 30 minutes to make sure I'm asleep. Then Claudia walks back to my house while Luis parks his car somewhere less visible. They break in through the back door, grab everything valuable they can carry in under 10 minutes, meet at the car, and drive away. Luis would cancel his Lyft activity for the night, claim car trouble if anyone asked questions later. It was straightforward and simple, and they'd clearly planned this quickly after Luis realized I was requesting another airport ride from the same address. We pulled up in front of my house and Luis put the car in park. He turned around with a friendly smile and said, "To see the full story, click the link below or go on my channel."